Welcome to the Delight in the Limelight live stream show. I'm your host, Linda Ugolo, speaking confidence coach and author of the book, Delight in the Limelight. I help people move from the dread of speaking in public to loving it instead. So today I want to talk about something that I think all of us have struggled with, which is not feeling like others recognize our value, where you may have felt like your hard work went unnoticed or it was unacknowledged or unappreciated. And perhaps the answer lies in making a case for your value, first for yourself and then for others to see. My guest
Mm.
today is Mary Tess Rooney, the host of True Stride podcast and author of Heart Value. She creates strategies and tools to help people give voice to their value, elicit appreciation, and prioritize the fun. I'm all about that. And she uses her background and expertise in strategy, sales, and communications to help people achieve the success based on their own vision and rules. Welcome, Mary Tess.
Oh, thank you so much for having me, Linda. I'm so excited to be part of your community and I'm thrilled with this conversation.
Yes, I'm thrilled with this conversation too, because, and I want to say from the very beginning that one of the things that struck me as I read your book, I don't know if you read the book, The One Thing. I can't remember who the author is of that, but he speaks about when there's one thing that if you do that, a lot of other things are taken care of. And that
Yeah.
was the feeling I got when you spoke about value in your book. It's like if we can unearth and gather together and receive our own value and learn to speak it, that takes care of a lot of stuff like
Yeah.
imposter syndrome, not feeling good enough. Um, yeah. So do you want to let's start there. Like, is that what you feel too? Or
Yeah.
did I just
Uh,
imagine that?
no, I think it's true. I think it's interesting because I worked in corporate America for a very long time. And in corporate America, you are always looking for that external recognition, right? It's like whether it's through awards or promotions or whatever it is, like that's how we're all conditioned, even if you're in self employed life, right? We all sort of want to seek approval or we want to feel validated for our value. And I don't think that stops. But what I started to realize in myself, because I went through a series of where I saw other people get overlooked or outmaneuvered, and they had so much value. And so I was like, whoa, why are they not seen? And then I had a couple experiences where I got passed over for an award or I was overlooked in different ways. And I thought, oh my goodness, like, does that really matter? Like at the end of the day, I never really cared about the award. Like to me, an award is it's just a thing. But I wanted to feel appreciated. And so it just got me really thinking about this sort of differential between what is validation and what is appreciation. And I love how you opened up this conversation. You said if you uncover it for yourself first, and then it can be translated to others. But if we don't unearth our own value and how it makes us feel, then how can anyone else appreciate us in the ways that we want? And so there was this huge shift in me where I started to see value in terms of not only what it does for me and how it makes me feel, but then how I could translate that and be in service of others. But you're like absolutely right. It has got to start with us. And I love that.
Yeah, yeah. I love that too, and that's what I really appreciate about you and your perspective. I want to back up before we dive into that because
Yeah.
talked about the difference between appreciation and validation. Say more about that.
So for me, we all have these I call them like heart-centered, energetic, and emotional connections with people. And in that realm, when you feel just energetically and emotionally supported and seen, that is true appreciation to me. But that's not realistic for everyone, right? Not everybody's going to be our people. Not everyone's going to be our jam, but we can still feel validated. And so validation says, hey like they have value. I see it. I want more of it, but we're not going to dinner over it. I'm not going to like reach out and talk on a personal level. And so when I look back at my career, I think about there was managers that I had where they absolutely validated that I brought value to the table, right? I was good at my job. But we didn't have that emotional and energetic connection. So I felt deflated. I was like, wow, like why they spend all their time with so and so? Like, am I like what's wrong with me? Or why am I not connecting on that level? And then when I started to view it more as like, okay, like, no, like I don't have that connection with everyone either. So it became less about, you know, not feeling seen and just realized that I needed to shift my energies towards people that I did feel energetically and emotionally connected to. Like I
Mhm.
wanted to share my value with people that not only, wanted what I had, right? Like, but also they were like excited to sort of pump me up and that we vibed off of each other. And so to me, those distinctions became very, very clear to me.
Yeah, that's a really helpful distinction, and I guess we can call it any number use any number of words to,
Yeah.
define it, but I like that distinction between people who who see what you do and the value that you offer, and I mean, maybe we can even put it in another level. There are people who I'll speak for myself. I see people that I feel like those people are valuable, but they're not for me at all.
Yes.
And
Yes.
then there are people who I see their value and therefore and I want that, and
Yeah.
I benefit from it, but it's not like I, as you say, vibe on the connection. And then there is this third level where there is a real heart connection, where we do, feel like we're part of a pod in some way.
Yeah. Yeah.
And whether or not we spend a lot of time together or not, there's that recognition of
Yes.
connectedness.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's interesting because, as you know, in the self-employed world, you start to interview people that can maybe support your book and as you're having conversations when you have this lens, it's like it's amazing how you can almost like I don't want to say break up with people, but you can almost like sort of make these distinctions of like, hey, you know what? I feel like we have an energetic and emotional connection. Um, and I love the value that you offer. Like, let's work together, right? Like that's one level. Or you can say, you know what? I can see you are awesome at your job. You're clearly a pioneer, but I don't feel like we energetically, emotionally connect. Do you feel that too? And usually they're like, yeah, you're right. Like, but I could do a good job. Do you want me to? I could like get you the results you want. And it's like, no, you know what? I really want to work with people that I vibe with, and they are like totally get it. I think I want that too now. And so it's just changes the conversation from, I don't like that person and you can be kind and just say, okay, I'm going to go find my people. I'm going to keep moving because I want to be energetically elevated in addition to sharing my value. That's
Mhm.
just,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, I agree, and I also wanna, like, put in that I've found that sometimes I grow on people and other people grow on me over time. So I
Yeah.
also like to leave the door open for that possibility.
Yeah.
Life is imperfect. So, we do the best we can with figuring out and filtering our relationships, and sometimes we can if we have sometimes we have the choice, sometimes we have less of a choice.
Yeah.
So let's move into the value piece now.
Sure.
So I want to hear about like how can we unearth our value? Like what are the steps that you took and that you recommend others of us take to elevate that piece of ourselves, to bring it together?
Yeah. So I there's an exercise in the book that's called invest in your value vault. And to me, your value vault is a total, accumulation of all the value that you've shared. And it's professional accomplishments always people start with, right? I mean, that's like the easy one and that's where we feel more seen externally. But it's also your personal achievements and it's also what I call expansion experiences. So it's those moments in life where, you were challenged or you were knocked down or something didn't go according to plan, but you gained value, right? And so I love this idea that we're constantly gaining value. So as we age, we just have more value, more experiences to share, and we have unique perspectives on them. And so, what I did moons ago now was I literally had gotten passed over for an award, and there was different shifts in energies that I saw. And I just thought, okay, like I am going to document my value. Like I need to really figure out what I want in life. And so I started with my professional accomplishments. And as I looked at them, it was interesting because I went through this like just, download, like, let me just put it on paper. And then when I went back and kind of assessed, I was like, oh, okay, like I've launched client relationship management tools. I've launched intranets. Like, does that bring me joy? Does that light me up? No. Like, am I glad I did it? Is that value that I can use in other ways? Yes. But do I want to keep doing that? No. And so it was like I could see this emotional contrast of I love speaking, I love talking to people, I love teaching. I'm a teacher at heart. And so anytime I had those value sort of documentations and it was around teaching, it was like, God, okay, I love that. Like I need to keep doing more of that. But the more that I started to look at this emotional contrast of what lit me up and what didn't, it was like clear to me that I had not done a good job of communicating that. Right. So even to my boss, it's like he valued that I could launch systems. Like I had this ability to rally large matrix teams and get everybody on the same page. And so that was something that I, got paid for. And so I thought, okay, well, that's all they want of me. But the more I started to like have these conversations about, no, like this is what brings me joy. He was like, oh, okay. I thought you loved this because you're really good at that. And it's like, no. So I started to see that some of the disconnect was because I was, putting on, I don't want to say it, like I was doing what I was paid to do and do it happily, right? Like, it's not like you're going to do it disgruntledly, but at the same time, it's like, I need to be communicating, hey, I'm going to do this for you. And I'm happy to be part of this team, but I also would like more opportunities in these other areas. I want to be, coaching and teaching and all of those things. And then they can support us in that shift.
Yeah, that I think that's such an interesting way of looking at or like utilizing our feelings. Like if we feel unnoticed or unappreciated, what are those things that we actually are craving to be noticed for? And
Yeah.
those are the things that maybe we want to be needing to express ourselves about more, as you're saying.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's so interesting. So I want to let's take it a little bit further about because I really want listeners to be able to figure out how they can pull together what you in the book called the Value Vault.
Yeah.
So, what kinds of things did you document for yourself at your workplace?
Yeah. So we had annual performance reviews and, we would have check-ins, quarterly check-ins. And so I went back and looked at all of my goals for the years and was like, okay, like this was, I had to put together this communication plan. I had to put together, a strategy to reach, 3,600 employees. And so I started to kind of, again, just look at those goals, look at my results and put them in a way that was, just digestible for me. And it wasn't fancy. Like literally it was a bulleted Word document. Like this does not have to be, anything crazy. When I worked with other people and coached them to do this, I had one person who, did more of a mind map and kind of, that was their visual understanding of their, here was my main goal and here are spokes of how I achieved those goals. I had someone else who was visual. And so they did like a linear timeline of their, their career progression. But again, as you look at them, you can see how some of those areas of expertise that you developed, like, were they in service of others? Absolutely. Right. That's sometimes what we get paid to do. But how do they make you feel? Like, are they in service of yourself? Is it value that you want to continue with? Because there was also times in my career where I was like, okay, in that moment, like I was jazzed about it and I got into it and I loved it, but would I want to do it now 5 years later? No, I don't want to do it again. And that's okay, right? We evolve, we're human. And so how can we just stay true to ourselves, and how can we be authentic to say, yes, that was in service of me and others, 10 years ago, but it's not something I want to continue. And so when people come to you, because people are going to see your light, right? You radiate this energetic and emotional light, and they're going to be drawn to it, and they're going to go, hey, I know you're the expert on this. And you can say, yeah, you know what? I am an expert on that, but here's what I'm doing now. And so how can you shift them into your joy zone? And they go, oh, okay, that's cool. I didn't know that. Yeah. hmm You know?
That's great. So the idea is to pull together all the things that you have accomplished. I it's interesting. I have a nightly ritual where I think of 5 things that I'm proud of myself for and 5
Mm,
things that I forgive myself for, but I don't write it down. It's just in my head.
yeah.
And it's making me think that if I had a place where it was written, that it was kind of gathered, it would serve to add to that value vault that you're talking about, because the things I'm proud of are the things that, yeah, make me that light me up. Well, actually, sometimes it's sometimes it's that I got through something. I figured out
Yeah.
a tech piece or whatever, and I am
Yeah.
proud of myself when I figure out tech. But it's
Yeah.
not like I wanna be known for
y-
that. In fact, I'd rather
Yeah.
be known for not being too techy so that people don't rely on me too much. And I think that's the problem, is that if you if you, you ha just like you were saying, like, if you show your abilities in certain areas, people will say, "Oh, then I want you to help me with that." And you gotta be
Yeah.
careful about that. I
You
actually have
do.
a friend, who at her first job, she was asked to get coffee for everyone, and she personally hates coffee,
Oh my
and
gosh.
so she purposely mixed up everyone's drink. She ordered the wrong things, brought it in, and they never asked her to do it again.
That's so great, isn't it? So it's
She
true.
said, I did not wanna be known as the go-to coffee girl."
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I thought that was a
It's
riot.
so fun. Well, I remember I had a meeting with a guy who, we were working on one project, and then he's like, all right, cool. Are we good? I'm like, yeah, we're good. And he's like, great. I have to figure out who's leading this next project. And I was like, oh, that would be me. And he goes, oh, Mary, you made the mistake of showing that you're competent. And so I started to get all of the like kind of messed up projects, the ones that had fallen off the rails. And it was my job to get them back on track. And when he said it, I thought, oh, he's right. And do I want to be known for that? No, I don't want to, like that's never fun coming into a crisis mode, but I am good at it. And so I had to be careful with that relationship.
Yes, absolutely. Yes, you don't wanna if that's not what you wanna do, you don't wanna you either I mean, sometimes we do step in, we
Yeah.
do go
Yeah.
over and beyond, but if you don't wanna be known for that, it needs to be clearly stated. So, how do you talk about, no, actually, before we go into talking about our value, I I want to just jam with you a bit about how we can accrue our compilation. So one of the things as you were speaking I was thinking of is I've just started to use Trello.
Oh, cool.
And I have my things for the day, and then I have like completed this week. And then
Yeah.
I move over those things and I keep each week's completed. And my idea was I want to be able to go back and see all the things I do, because we're so busy with our lives. We don't even remember all the things that we accomplished, right?
Yeah. Yeah. No, it's
So it
true.
may be the big things like we do a year-end review, which I do, and those are great. But that's not everything that we feel either that we accomplished or that we are proud of.
Yeah.
For instance, I remember I was at a podcast conference a few weeks ago, and I struck up a conversation with a guy who was starting a podcast, and I was asking him about it. And then I gave him my idea, just a phrase, messaging, whatever. And he said, "Oh my God, I'm going to use that. Can I use that?" I said, "Yeah, go with it." And that's something I do well,
Yeah.
but I don't want to be known for it. But
Yeah.
I do feel proud that I can
Yeah.
do that, and that I can actually help clients with that too, but it's not like I lead with that, because I would feel like that's not my zone.
Right.
But so kind of like, what ideas do you have for people to kind of gather and accrue their value as they go along? What would you suggest?
So I love your Trello thing. I like right now I have a journal that is literally this is all so it's a not a journal, it's a calendar.
A planner?
Yeah, it's a planner. Yes, thank you. But the planner has, sections with the dates, but this is where I put like, your ritual. Like at the end of the day, I kind of just say, okay, like what did I do that I really am, happy with? And sometimes it's like, I connected with a dear friend or, I talked earlier about how it's important to put those expansion experiences in there too.
Yeah, talk
Like
about that.
yeah. So, I got divorced, I've had a miscarriage. Like those are experiences that are very painful, right? I don't want to repeat them by any stretch of the imagination. But I am in awe at how much empathy I gained in those and how much perspective and how much I've had deep conversations with people because they've shared a similar experience. And so, our expansion experiences are those times where we, kind of hit a low, but how do we get ourselves back up? Because I also feel very proud of the fact that I'm, able to turn those things around or, I'm just getting over an illness and I'm like, okay, I'm at a low, but what is this teaching me? It's teaching me to how to be instead of do. It's teaching me that, I need to honor my health first and foremost. It's teaching me to slow down. And so, again, those things, it's like I was looking back and the last couple of weeks in my pages and I again try and like capture like how I'm feeling, what's going on, what I'm proud about or what expansion experience I'm accruing in terms of value. And then I also try and give myself like one thing that like one advice I'd give a best friend for myself, right? Like cuz I try and treat myself like I would a best friend. Like so then it's like, okay, well, what's the advice out of here? And it's like, wow, okay, I had signs that I was not feeling my best and I pushed it. And guess what? The body has a way of telling me no go. Like so but I saw those signs and when I look back at my notes it was like, I even wrote at one point like I'm feeling a little run down and it's like why didn't I honor that? Well, that's expansion. Like and the more I practice this ritual of documenting in whatever form it is, it's like I just have the ability to self-reflect. And that's the biggest gift, I think. It's like we all have value. It's all unique. But when you self-reflect and figure out how it makes you feel or how you can jointly use it to serve you and others, then that's the dream, right? That's what we all want.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. So I want to understand a couple of things. One is like how do you talk about your value, let's say at work or as an entrepreneur without feeling braggadocious?
I do it a lot with humor, I would say. Like my mom laughs because I'm like the first to go, yeah, I'm really good at that. But that wasn't always the case. I grew up in a very humble family and, we were taught not to toot our own horn. We were taught that actions speak louder than words. And so when I was, in corporate America, I struggled with those individuals that would brag and that would be boastful and that would, you know, talk about something that they did like over and over again, but they were the ones that were getting recognized and rewarded. And so I think in this world of information overload, the times have changed where actions no longer can speak louder than words. We have to still do the actions, right? That's a key critical component, but we have to be willing to back it up and say, no, I'm proud of this. Like why would we hide that? Like, whether you are faith-based or not, we each have these God-given talents that deserve to be seen, that are given to us or that we have the ability to share for a reason. And so I no longer like, I joke about it or I'll, communicate and say, hey, like, this is something I'm really good at and brings me joy. Like I
Mm.
reinforce that connection. Like, because to me, it's like I want them to understand this is not just a talent that I can use to make money. I mean, those are things exist too, and sometimes we have to do it. but it's like, hey, this is something that I feel really aligned with. Like I can help you in this area because I'm good at it and it lights me up. So I want to do it. And people really appreciate that distinction because they're like, oh, cool. Like, I mean, what would you rather? Someone who can do the job and just do it for a paycheck, or someone who's going to do it
Right.
and do it with that energetic and emotional connection? It's a
Yeah,
no-brainer.
yeah. Yeah. I love that. I love saying it's something that I'm good at and it brings me joy. I've also personally like being able to come from a place of, I'm really proud that I've been able to do this,
Yeah. Yeah.
because that feels like, acknowledging the accomplishment for myself, and I think that, we feel good about one another's accomplishments or each other's pride, or we wanna lift each other up. I think there's some kind of mirroring that goes on. So,
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, I'd love to hear from people who are, listening to this or watching what you would say in order to share your value. Like, what have you said that has gone well? What have you heard other people say, or the way they've said it that feels like, yeah, I could do that. I think we need more of these suggestions of verbiage to
Mm,
say, especially if we're not comfortable. Like if we grew up, as you said, with the idea that actions are louder, stronger than words, are more valuable, and we think that, oh, people should just notice us, and then figuring out, no, they're not noticing us because we're not talking about it.
yeah.
So
Well, and it's
that's
also,
yeah.
let me just, because this just came up recently with someone I was talking to. They had their performance review, right? They're getting ready to do their bonus, and their manager was raving about, giving them accolades after accolades. And then when they got their performance rating, it was meets expectations. And so I was so proud of this individual because she had the confidence to say, "Hey, um, the I'm surprised by the meets expectations because you were just going on and on with the accolades and how, I'm a essential team member, and so I need you to put those uh the verbiage that you just shared with me verbally in the document. I want it documented in my portfolio that, is obviously seen by the whole company." And I thought, like, those are the little things that you can do, right? So if someone is giving you accolades for something, like, ask them to document it. I love it on all of your podcasts. You talk about, hey, please leave me a review. Like, so it's not just about how we can express it, it's about how we can help other people express it. And then we can make the tie to say, yes, like, I want to be seen for that. Thank you for helping me because that is something I want to continue to do that lights me up.
Mm, yeah. Yeah. So you speak a lot about joy, about being lit up.
Yeah.
Uh, what do you want to see with that element of experience for people?
So I want them to prioritize fun. I think we've, as a society, got into this ritual of we reserve fun or joy for the weekends, or we reserve fun for vacation. And it's like, no, we can choose to have fun and joy on a daily basis, and to just know that that is within our power, it's within our realm. And so I want people to, I used to work with this guy who was a runner, and running brings me joy. And so I loved where somehow we were like talking and we had to have a meeting about something, but it was like, however it came about, it was like, okay, well, can we do this over a run? So we literally like left the office building and went for a run, got our conversation like completely done, and we were both energized. And it's like, yes, like, at any moment we can, do things that bring us joy and have the serious conversations. And so how do we just interweave those and maybe step outside of the box from the traditional thinking of, it's just it's we have to put it on a schedule.
Yeah. So how other ways are there other ways that you can imagine people doing that same kind of thing? So taking a like a lunch walk with somebody to have a meeting might be
Yeah.
one. What
Yeah.
else?
Um, I think that just like honoring your own self-care time. So carving out time for yourself for things, whether that's, reading or knitting or photography, it's, just prioritizing ourselves in addition to being of service of others.
Mhm.
Um, and looking at life and to say, okay, like what do I want in this moment, or what is it that's going to bring me joy? And that can also just be, very simple. Like I want to have a dinner or a lunch with someone that is energetically and emotionally connected to me.
Mhm.
So there's simple things. I get a lot of joy out of playing frisbee with my dogs. Like it cracks me up. I think it's entertaining. And so I try and make time, in my day every day to do that so that we have that outlet and that it goes with my flow. Sunrises, like I don't know what it is about sunrises, but that is like the most magical time. I love being on the beach and capturing that the colors and the birds and the waves. It's just, it's a beautiful time. So and that helps ground me for my day. So it's really looking at those little micro moments that we can infuse and say, does that take long? The sunrise is pretty fast. But does that completely shift my energies into that joyful state? Absolutely.
Mhm. Yeah, and then you can go to work with that kind of energy. Yeah,
Yes.
yeah,
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 it's
for
fun.
sure. I wanna ask you, it's something I'm thinking I wanna ask my guests more often, like, what is your a single tip that you might give for people to be more authentically themselves when they speak, when they interact with people?
I like this idea of taking themselves on a wise walk. And so I talk about this in my podcast, True Stride. And when we go on a wise walk, it's like we're moving, and so we're physically more connected to our body. And then we ask ourselves some questions to really get at our feelings and that feeling state. And I talk a lot about this whole idea of when you know your feelings, then you can make choices and take actions that align with your authentic self. But that authenticity can only come from our feeling state. So you have to feel, choose, and act. And so this idea of taking yourself on a wise walk and honoring this self-reflection process, it's like, okay, how does this upcoming meeting make me feel? I feel kind of crappy about it. Great. Well, what are the choices that are available to you? You could reschedule, right? That's a choice. You could tell the person like, I feel like we're disconnected. Why are we disconnected? You know, is the feeling that you don't like the actual topic? Is it the person is awesome, but so it's sort of when you can just dive in and go uncover what is that feeling? If you feel resistance, if you feel a trigger, like where does that come from? And once you understand that, and you can literally like make a buffet of choices and say, okay, well, so which one feels more aligned to me? And then once you go, okay, this choice feels most aligned, then I'm going to act on it. And here's the action I'm going to take. And so kind of moving through and taking yourself on this wise walk, I think helps ground you. It helps you, just it helps you be authentic. You can, it's like you can be lighthearted about it. Like I love it when someone asks me to do something and I drop into my heart and I take myself on a wise walk and I go, you know what? I don't feel like that's right for me. And they take it very well because I'm not saying their idea is bad. I'm not saying that, they're wrong for asking me, but I don't feel that's right for me, whether that's right now. If I want to elaborate, I can. But it's just this honoring, and it's amazing because I've shifted that conversation, how receptive people are. They're like, oh, okay, it doesn't feel right to you. Great. Like it doesn't become an ego thing, right? It becomes more about you be you, I'm going to be me. Glad you asked because I wouldn't have that awareness before. Thank you for asking, and I felt resistance, and now I know that that's not the right path. Like end of day, but we can't know ourselves if we don't take time to really drop into our heart and feel it first.
Yeah, wonderful, wonderful stuff, and I love how it all I just feel how it all kind of, relates to this sense of finding our value and
Yeah.
coming from that place of experiencing, receiving, taking in, and being, filled up by our own value.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
Thank you, Mary Tess.
thank you for having me.
So how can people find more about you?
So my website is marytessrooney.com. It's on the screen. Very good, Linda. So that's a great way you can, I have a weekly podcast that's been going on for over 2 years now, and that's called the True Stride Podcast. You can email me, marytess@truestride.com. I'd love for you to either listen to the audiobook of Heart Value or read it, and so that we can just dive deeper into this conversation, because you brought up so many great points, Linda. I love how you're going out and helping people step into their beauty and their delight and their limelight.
Yep. Yes. Well, thank you. It's obviously we're after a similar mission in the world to help people feel better about their experience of life and how they move through this time that we have on Earth,
Yeah.
right? We want to
We got
make it.
one shot at this. We might as well make it fun.
We might as well make it fun. We may as well make it the best it can be. And
Yeah.
yeah, so thank you so much for sharing all your thoughts, your perspective, your wisdom with us.
Oh, thank you. And thanks everybody for listening.
Yeah. So, and thank you all who came on or who will watch the replay. Mary Tess Rooney, go out and get her book, Heart Value. Is that it?
Yeah.
Did I say
Heart
that right?
value.
Heart
Yeah.
Value. Yes. Heart
Absolutely.
Value.
Yeah.
And if you want to learn more about how you can overcome your fear of speaking, of course, go to delightinthelimelight.com. And that's what I'm wishing for you, is your speaking confidence and your delight in the limelight. Thanks so much.
Mhm.
Bye-bye.